Chosen ones, you're not going crazy. You've passed the test, and you're leaving this reality for good. A new world is calling your name, a realm where your soul aligns with divine purpose, where the struggles of this life fade into a distant memory. You feel it, don't you? That pull, that shift, that unshakable knowing deep in your spirit that something extraordinary is happening. You're not losing your mind, you're stepping into a higher dimension, a place God has prepared for you, where every trial you've faced becomes the foundation for a life beyond imagination. This isn't about escaping reality, it's about transcending it. You've walked through fire, faced doubts that could have broken you, and stood firm when the world tried to pull you under. Those moments weren't random. They were tests, divine markers to refine your soul, to prove you're ready for what's next. You've carried burdens others couldn't imagine, yet here you are, still standing, still shining. That's not weakness, that's power. God saw your heart, your resilience, your unwavering faith, and now He's opening a door to a new world, one where your light will burn brighter than ever. Think about Noah, a man who built an ark when the world laughed. They called him mad, delusional, a fool chasing visions no one else could see. But Noah wasn't crazy. He was chosen. He heard God's voice when others heard only silence. He trusted the unseen over the visible, and when the floods came, his faith carried him to a new reality. You're walking that same path. The whispers of doubt, the voices saying you're too much or not enough, they're wrong. You're not losing your grip. You're gaining a new perspective, one that sees beyond the limits of this world. Right now, pause and feel the weight of this moment. Your spirit knows this truth. To claim it, leave a comment with the number 777 below. That number carries the energy of divine completion, a sign you're ready to step into this new world. Don't just watch, act. Hit the like button and subscribe to join thousands of chosen ones walking this path. Your engagement amplifies this message, sending it to others who need to hear it. You've felt out of place, haven't you? Like this world doesn't quite fit. Like you're a stranger in a land that doesn't understand you. That's because you were never meant to stay here forever. This reality, with its chaos and confusion, was only a training ground. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every moment you felt alone, they were shaping you for a purpose far greater than this world can hold. You're not crazy for feeling different. You're divine for knowing it. God has been preparing you, not for a life of fitting in, but for a destiny of standing out. Consider Moses, standing before the Red Sea with an army at his back and a nation looking to him for answers. The world saw an impossible situation, walls of water, no way out. But Moses saw what others couldn't: God's plan. He raised his staff, and the sea parted, leading his people to a new reality. You're at that same crossroads. The obstacles in front of you aren't barriers, they're gateways. Your faith, your courage, your refusal to give up. They're the staff God has placed in your hand to part the seas of this reality and step into the new world He's promised. You might be wondering, why now? Why does this feel so urgent, so real? Because this is your moment of ascension. The tests you've passed weren't meant to break you. They were meant to build you. Every time you chose forgiveness over bitterness, hope over despair, faith over fear, you were laying bricks for a new foundation. This new world isn't a fantasy. It's a divine reality where your purpose comes alive, where your gifts shine without restraint, where the weight of this life lifts and you walk in freedom. Let's anchor this truth. Comment 777 below to declare you're ready for this shift. This isn't just a number, It's a signal to the universe that you're stepping into your divine calling. Your action matters. It's not enough to feel this truth. You need to claim it. Look at Esther, a woman who seemed ordinary until God called her to a moment that changed history. She wasn't born a queen, but she was chosen for one. When she stepped into the king's court, risking everything, she wasn't crazy, she was obedient. Her courage opened a new reality for her people, a world where they were saved from destruction. You're standing in your own Esther moment. The risks you've taken, the faith you've held on to, they're not signs of madness, but of divine alignment. You're leaving behind a reality that no longer serves you and stepping into one where your purpose reigns. This new world isn't just about you, it's about the impact you're destined to make. Every test you've passed has equipped you to carry light into places others can't reach. You've been through the fire, not to burn, but to be refined. Your scars are proof of your strength. Your story a beacon for others still finding their way. God isn't just calling you to a new reality for your own sake. He's calling you to lead, to heal, to show others what's possible when you trust His plan. Feel the shift happening inside you. Your mind is clearer, your heart lighter, your spirit stronger. This isn't imagination, it's revelation. You're not going crazy, you're waking up. The old reality, with its doubts and limits, is crumbling. You're stepping into a world where miracles aren't rare, where abundance flows, where your presence changes everything. This isn't about leaving Earth, it's about living on a higher plane, where your thoughts align with God's truth, where your actions reflect His power. Comment 777 one more time to seal this moment. Let the heavens know you're ready to depart this old reality and embrace the new. Your faith is the key that unlocks this door. Don't hold back, declare it now. Think of Daniel in the lion's den. The world saw a man doomed, thrown into a pit with no escape. But Daniel wasn't crazy for trusting God, he was chosen. While others trembled, he slept in peace, surrounded by lions, because his faith opened a reality where God's protection was undeniable. You're in your own den right now, surrounded by challenges that look impossible. But like Daniel, you're not here to be devoured. You're here to demonstrate God's power. The new world waiting for you is one where lions bow, where fear has no hold, where your faith rewrites the story. This departure isn't about running away. It's about stepping forward. You're not abandoning your responsibilities. You're embracing your calling. The old reality taught you strength, but the new one will teach you freedom. You've passed the tests of endurance, of faith, of love. Now, God is inviting you to a place where those lessons bear fruit, where your life becomes a testament to His glory. You're not crazy for believing this, you're chosen for living it. Every step you've taken has led to this moment. The nights you cried out to God, the days you pushed through pain, the times you stood when others would have fallen, they weren't in vain. They were your training ground. Now, the gates to a new world are opening, and you're ready to walk through. This isn't about leaving behind who you are. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be. A chosen one, radiant with purpose, unshaken by doubt, living in a reality where God's promises are your truth. One last time, comment 777 to affirm you're stepping into this new world. Let this act be your declaration of faith, your signal to God that you're ready to leave the old behind. And if this message speaks to your soul, hit the like button and subscribe to join thousands of chosen ones on this journey. Your support keeps this light shining for others. You've seen glimpses of this new world already, haven't you? Those moments when peace flooded your heart, despite the chaos, when answers came before you even asked, when you felt a strength you couldn't explain. Those weren't accidents, they were previews of what's to come. God has been showing you that this new reality exists, that it's not a dream, but a destination. You're not losing your mind, you're finding your place in His plan. Think of Elijah, who stood alone against hundreds of false prophets. The world thought he was mad, challenging the powers of his day with nothing but faith. But when fire fell from heaven, it wasn't Elijah who looked crazy, it was those who doubted him. You're standing in your own moment of fire, where God's power is about to prove what you've known all along. This new world isn't just a hope, it's a reality you're already stepping into, where your faith calls down miracles, where your presence shifts the atmosphere. You're leaving behind a reality that tried to dim your light. The doubts, the fears, the voices that said you're not enough, they have no place where you're going. This new world is built on truth, on the certainty that you are chosen, loved, and destined for greatness. You've passed the test, not because you're perfect, but because you trusted God's perfection. Your departure is not an end, it's a beginning, a step into a life where every moment reflects His glory. The world might call you crazy for believing in a reality beyond what they see. Let them, like Abraham, who left everything for a land God promised. You're not bound by what others understand. You're guided by a vision only faith can see. That tingling in your spirit, that certainty in your heart, it's not madness, it's divine clarity. You're stepping into a world where your dreams align with God's will, where your purpose unfolds without resistance, where you live as the chosen one you were created to be. This new reality isn't far away, it's already here, unfolding with every step you take. You've felt the shift in your thoughts, the lightness in your spirit, the courage that rises when you face the impossible. That's God preparing you, aligning you with a world where His promises are your reality. You're not crazy for believing this, you're chosen for living it. Every test you've passed has carved out a path to this moment, where you leave behind the old and embrace a life of divine purpose. Consider Mary, who carried a child the world couldn't comprehend. They questioned her, mocked her, called her story impossible. But Mary wasn't crazy, she was chosen. Her faith opened a reality where God's Son came through her, changing history forever. You're carrying something just as powerful, a vision, a purpose, a light that this world doesn't understand. But like Mary, your faith will birth something extraordinary, a new world where God's plan for you comes to life. You're not losing your mind, you're gaining your destiny. The tests you've faced weren't meant to destroy you, they were meant to reveal you. Every moment of doubt, every challenge you overcame, was God shaping you for a reality where His power flows through you without limit. This new world is where your gifts shine, where your heart finds peace, where your life becomes a living testimony to His grace. You're not crazy, you're called. The old reality taught you to survive, but the new one will teach you to thrive. You've carried weights that would crush others, yet you're still here, stronger than ever. That's not madness, it's divine strength. God has seen every tear, every prayer, every moment you chose faith over fear. Now, He's leading you to a world where those choices bear fruit, where your life reflects the glory He's placed within you. You're not just leaving this reality, you're stepping into your purpose. Think of Joseph, sold into slavery, imprisoned, forgotten. The world saw a dreamer with no future, a man whose vision seemed like madness. But Joseph wasn't crazy, he was chosen. Every trial was a step toward a new reality, where he rose from the pit to the palace, saving nations. Your journey mirrors his. The dreams you've held, the faith you've clung to, they're not delusions. They're the blueprint of the new world God is building through you. This departure isn't about running from problems, it's about running toward promise. You've passed the tests of patience, of trust, of love. Now, you're stepping into a reality where those qualities shine. The world you're leaving tried to define you by its limits, but the world you're entering knows no boundaries. Your faith, your resilience, your heart, they're the keys to a life where miracles are normal, where abundance is your inheritance, where you live as the chosen one you are. You're not going crazy, you're going home. This new world isn't a place you travel to with your feet. It's a reality you enter with your spirit. It's where your thoughts align with God's truth, where your actions reflect His power, where your life becomes a testament to His love. You've felt the pull, the moments of clarity, the glimpses of something greater. Those aren't signs of madness, they're signs of your calling. Proof you're ready to leave this reality for good. Every test you've passed has been a step toward this moment. The times you forgave when it hurt, the moments you stood when you wanted to fall, the nights you prayed through the pain, they were all preparing you. God wasn't testing you to see if you'd fail. He was training you to reign. This new world is where you step into that reign, where your light doesn't just shine, it transforms. You're not crazy for believing this. You're chosen for living it. Look at David, a shepherd boy the world overlooked. They called his faith foolish, his dreams impossible. But David wasn't crazy, he was chosen. When he faced Goliath, he didn't see a giant. He saw God's victory. You're standing before your own giants now, but like David, you're not shaken. Your faith opens a reality where giants fall, where the impossible becomes your story, where you walk into a world crafted by God's hand for you. This new world is where your purpose comes alive. The tests you've passed weren't just obstacles, they were invitations to grow, to trust, to become. Every time you chose love over hate, faith over doubt, hope over despair, you were building the foundation for this new reality. You're not leaving behind who you are, you're stepping into who you were always meant to be. A chosen one, radiant with God's light, living in a world where His promises are your truth. You've felt the shift, haven't you? The way your heart beats stronger, your mind sees clearer, your spirit feels lighter. That's not madness, it's awakening. You're not losing your grip on reality. You're gaining a hold on eternity. This new world is where your gifts don't just exist, they thrive. Where your voice doesn't just speak, it changes lives. Where your presence doesn't just occupy space, it shifts the atmosphere. You're not crazy, you're called. Think of Paul, who went from persecutor to apostle. The world thought he'd lost his mind when he turned from his old ways to follow Christ. But Paul wasn't crazy, he was transformed. His new reality wasn't bound by the chains of his past. It was shaped by God's purpose. You're walking that same path. The world may not understand your faith, your vision, your certainty, but like Paul, you're not here to fit in. You're here to break through, to step into a world where God's plan for you unfolds. This departure is your divine moment. You've passed the tests, not because you're stronger than others, but because you trusted God's strength. The old reality, with its doubts and fears, can't hold you anymore. You're stepping into a world where your faith is your currency, where your purpose is your guide, where your life reflects God's glory. You're not going crazy, you're going forward, into a reality where you live as the chosen one you were created to be. The tests you've faced weren't random, they were divine assignments, each one shaping you for this moment. When you chose to forgive, to stand, to believe, you were passing a test that unlocked a new level of your destiny. This new world isn't a reward for your perfection, it's a gift for your faith. God has seen your heart, your resolve, your refusal to give up. Now, He's opening a door to a reality where your life becomes a living testimony to his power. You're not imagining the change you feel, that spark in your spirit, that clarity in your mind, that peace in your heart. They're real. They're signs you're leaving behind a reality that tried to dim your light and stepping into one where you shine without restraint. This new world is where your dreams don't just survive, they thrive. Where your purpose doesn't just exist, it transforms. You're not crazy for believing this, you're chosen for living it. Think of Ruth, who left her homeland for a future she couldn't see. The world saw a widow with nothing, but God saw a woman of faith. Her trust led her to a new reality, where she became part of a lineage that changed history. You're walking in Ruth's footsteps, leaving behind what's familiar for what's promised. The world may not see it yet, but God does. Your departure is not a loss, it's a gain, a step into a world where his plan for you comes alive. This new reality is where your heart finds its home. You've always known you were made for more, haven't you? That longing, that restlessness, it wasn't madness. It was God calling you to a higher purpose. The tests you've passed have prepared you to live in a world where his promises are your reality, where your faith shapes your future, where your life reflects his glory. You're not going crazy, you're going toward the life you were created for. You've seen the signs, felt the shift, heard the whisper of something greater. That's not imagination, it's divine confirmation. You're stepping into a reality where your gifts aren't just tools, they're weapons of light, piercing through darkness, transforming lives. The world you're leaving tried to define you by its limits, but the world you're entering knows no boundaries. Your faith, your heart, your purpose, they're the keys to a life where miracles are your norm. Consider Lazarus, called out of the tomb after 4 days. The world thought his story was over, that he was gone for good. But Jesus saw a different reality, one where death wasn't the end, but the beginning. You're in your own Lazarus moment, stepping out of the tomb of your past into a new world of life and purpose. The world may think you're crazy for believing in resurrection, but God knows you're chosen for it. This new world is where your soul thrives. The tests you've passed have taught you to trust, to stand, to love. Now, you're entering a reality where those lessons become your strength, where your faith becomes your foundation, where your life becomes a beacon of God's glory. You're not losing your mind, you're finding your destiny. The old reality can't hold you anymore. You're stepping into a world where you live as the chosen one you are. You're not running from this reality, you're rising above it. The challenges you've faced, the doubts you've overcome, the faith you've held onto, they've all been preparing you for this moment. God isn't just calling you to a new place, he's calling you to a new purpose. This world you're entering is where your light doesn't just shine, it transforms. Where your presence doesn't just exist, it changes everything. You're not crazy, you're called. Think of Peter, who stepped out of the boat onto the water. The world saw a man defying reason, risking everything on a moment of faith. But Peter wasn't crazy. He was chosen. His trust in Jesus opened a reality where the impossible became his path. You're stepping out of your own boat now, walking on waters others can't see, moving toward a world where your faith makes the impossible possible. Your departure is your victory, your faith, your guide. This new reality is where your purpose comes alive. You've passed the tests, not because you're flawless, but because you're faithful. The old world, with its doubts and limits, is fading. You're stepping into a reality where God's promises are your truth, where your gifts change lives, where your life reflects his glory. You're not going crazy, you're going forward, into a world where you live as the chosen one you were created to be. You've always known there was more to your story, haven't you? that quiet voice in your soul, whispering of a purpose bigger than the world around you, wasn't just a fleeting thought. It was God speaking, calling you to a reality where your life isn't bound by the ordinary but shaped by the divine. You're not going crazy for hearing it, you're being awakened. This new world you're stepping into is where that voice becomes your guide, where your faith turns whispers into reality, where you live as the chosen one you were always meant to be. Think of Jonah, swallowed by the whale, alone in the dark. The world thought his story was over, that he'd been lost to his rebellion. But Jonah wasn't abandoned, he was chosen. In the belly of the beast, he found his purpose, and God brought him to a new reality where his obedience saved a city. You've been in your own dark moments, haven't you? Times when it felt like the world had swallowed you whole. But those weren't endings, they were beginnings, preparing you for a world where your story changes nations. This new reality isn't built on the rules of the old one. The world you're leaving judged you by its standards, what you have, what you've done, what others think. But the world you're entering sees you through God's eyes, chosen, radiant, unstoppable. You've passed tests of patience, of courage, of trust, not to prove your worth, but to reveal it. Now, you're stepping into a place where your worth is undeniable, where your light doesn't just shine, it reshapes everything around you. You've felt the ground shifting beneath you, the way things that once mattered seem to fade. That's not confusion, it's clarity. You're not losing your way, you're finding your path. This new world is where your heart aligns with God's plan, where your steps are guided by His hand, where your life becomes a living testament to His power. You're not crazy for feeling this shift, you're chosen for embracing it, ready to walk into a reality where miracles are your everyday. Consider Rahab, a woman the world despised, yet chosen by God to change history. She hid the spies, not out of fear, but out of faith in a God she barely knew. Her courage opened a new reality, where she went from outcast to ancestor of kings. You're standing in your own Rahab moment, where the world's judgment no longer defines you. Your faith, your choices, your trust, they're opening doors to a world where your past doesn't limit your future, where God's plan for you rewrites your story. You're not imagining the freedom you feel rising within you. That lightness, that certainty, that spark of joy, it's real. It's God preparing you for a reality where fear has no place, where doubt can't survive, where your purpose thrives without resistance. You've passed the tests that tried to break you, not because you're stronger than others, but because you leaned on God's strength. Now, you're entering a world where that strength becomes your foundation, where your life reflects His glory in every moment. The old reality told you to shrink, to fit in, to play small, but the new world calls you to rise, to stand tall, to shine without apology. You've carried dreams that felt too big, hopes that seemed out of reach. Those weren't delusions, they were divine visions, glimpses of the reality God is leading you to. You're not crazy for believing in them, you're chosen for bringing them to life, stepping into a world where your dreams become your destiny. Think of Gideon, a man hiding in fear, yet called a mighty warrior by God. The world saw weakness, but God saw purpose. When Gideon trusted that call, he stepped into a reality where armies fell before him, where his faith turned the impossible into truth. You're in your own Gideon moment, where God's voice drowns out the world's doubts. This new world is where your weaknesses become strengths, where your faith moves mountains, where you live as the warrior God always knew you were. You've felt the tension, haven't you? The pull between who you were and who you're becoming. That's not madness, it's transformation. You're not losing yourself. You're discovering who you were created to be. This new reality is where your true self comes alive, where your gifts don't just exist, they flourish, where your voice doesn't just speak, it inspires, where your presence doesn't just fill a room, it changes the world. You're not going crazy, you're stepping into your calling. The tests you've passed weren't just hurdles, they were holy ground. Every moment you chose to trust, to forgive, to keep going, was God preparing you for this new world. You've walked through valleys others would have fled, faced storms others would have crumbled under. That's not insanity, it's divinity. You're entering a reality where those valleys become mountaintops, where your faith turns storms into calm, where your life becomes a beacon of God's grace. Look at Hannah, who prayed through years of barrenness, her heart breaking yet her faith unbroken. The world saw a woman with nothing, but God saw a mother of prophets. Her persistence opened a new reality, where her prayers birthed Samuel, a man who changed Israel's course. You're walking in Hannah's footsteps, where your prayers, your tears, your faith are birthing something greater. This new world is where your persistence pays off, where your faith becomes your legacy. You're not imagining the change in how you see the world. The way colors seem brighter, the way hope feels stronger, the way peace settles deeper, that's God aligning your spirit with a new reality. You've passed the tests of doubt, of fear, of rejection, not to prove you're worthy, but to show you're ready. This new world is where your readiness meets God's promises, where your life becomes a living proof of His faithfulness. You're not crazy, you're chosen. The old reality tried to chain you to its limits, money, status, opinions, but the new world sets you free to live by God's truth. You felt the weight lifting, the clarity growing, the purpose rising. That's not delusion, it's destiny. You're stepping into a reality where abundance isn't just financial, it's spiritual, emotional, eternal, where your life isn't measured by what you have, but by who you are in God's eyes. You're not going crazy, you're going forward. Think of John the Baptist, a voice crying in the wilderness, preparing the way. The world thought him mad, living in the desert, speaking of a kingdom they couldn't see. But John wasn't crazy, he was chosen. His faith opened a reality where his voice shook the heavens, paving the way for Christ. You're a voice in your own wilderness, speaking truths others don't yet see. This new world is where your voice carries power, where your faith prepares the way for miracles. You've felt moments when time seemed to slow, when everything made sense, when God's presence was undeniable. Those weren't illusions, they were invitations. God was showing you the new reality He's prepared, a world where your faith isn't just a belief, but a force. You've passed the tests that taught you to trust His timing, to lean on His strength, to follow His lead. Now, you're stepping into a place where His timing is perfect. His strength is yours. His lead is your path. The world you're leaving tried to define you by its failures, your mistakes, your setbacks, your pain. But the world you're entering sees you through God's victory. You're not crazy for believing you're more than your past, you're chosen for embracing it. Every scar you carry is a story of survival, every tear a testament to faith. This new reality is where those stories become your strength, where your life shines as a reflection of God's redemption. Consider Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who faced a fiery furnace with unwavering faith. The world saw men doomed to burn, but God saw His chosen, untouched by flames. Their trust opened a reality where fire couldn't harm them, where their faith became a testimony to kings. You're standing in your own furnace, where the world sees impossibility, but God sees opportunity. This new world is where your faith makes the impossible your reality. You're not losing your mind when you feel this shift. It's your spirit coming alive. The tests you've passed have taught you to see what others miss, to hear what others ignore, to trust what others doubt. This new reality is where your vision becomes clear, where your ears hear God's voice, where your heart trusts His plan. You're not crazy for believing in a world beyond this one you're chosen for, living in it. The old reality told you to fight for scraps, to chase approval, to fear failure. But the new world invites you to rest in abundance, to walk in purpose, to live without fear. You've passed the tests that showed you God's provision, His love, His power. Now, you're stepping into a reality where provision is your inheritance, love is your foundation, power is your birthright. You're not going crazy, you're stepping into your destiny. Think of Deborah, a prophetess who led with wisdom when the world expected her to stay silent. They called her bold, perhaps even foolish, but she wasn't crazy, she was chosen. Her faith opened a reality where her leadership saved a nation, where her courage inspired armies. You're in your own Deborah moment, where your wisdom, your courage, your faith are leading you to a world where your influence changes everything. You've felt the restlessness, the longing for something more. That's not madness, it's God stirring your soul. You're not meant to stay in a reality that confines you. You're meant to soar in one that frees you. The tests you've passed have shown you're ready, not perfect, but ready. This new world is where your readiness meets God's promises, where your faith becomes your reality, where your life reflects His glory in every step. The world you're leaving tried to make you doubt your worth, your purpose, your God. But the world you're entering affirms them all. You've passed the tests of endurance, of trust, of love, not to earn God's favor, but to embrace it. This new reality is where His favor surrounds you, where His purpose guides you, where His love defines you. You're not crazy for believing this, you're chosen for living it. Look at Nehemiah, who saw a broken city and believed it could rise again. The world saw ruins, but Nehemiah saw restoration. His faith rebuilt walls, revived a people, reshaped a nation. You're standing before your own broken walls, where the world sees impossibility, but God sees opportunity. This new world is where your faith rebuilds what was lost, where your vision restores what was broken, where your life becomes a testament to His power. You're not imagining the peace that's growing within you, that calm, that certainty, that unshakable trust. It's God preparing you for a reality where peace is your foundation. You've passed the tests that taught you to stand firm, to hold fast, to trust deeply. Now, you're stepping into a world where your faith doesn't just sustain you, it transforms you, your surroundings, your future. You're not going crazy. You're going home to the life God created for you. The old reality tried to keep you small, to make you question your calling, to dim your light. But the new world amplifies it all. You've felt the shift, the way your thoughts align with hope, your heart with purpose, your spirit with God. That's not delusion, it's divine alignment. You're stepping into a reality where your calling is clear, your light is unstoppable, your life is a reflection of God's glory. You're not crazy, you're chosen. Think of Elizabeth, who carried a miracle in her womb when the world said it was impossible. They questioned her, doubted her, but she wasn't crazy, she was chosen. Her faith opened a reality where her child became the forerunner of Christ. You're carrying your own miracle, a purpose the world can't see but God has promised. This new world is where that miracle comes to life, where your faith births what others thought impossible. You've passed the tests, not because you're perfect, but because you're persistent. Every time you chose to trust, to pray, to believe, you were building a bridge to this new reality. The world you're leaving couldn't contain your spirit. The world you're entering is built for it. You're not losing your mind, you're gaining your purpose, stepping into a life where God's promises are your truth, where your faith shapes your future. The restlessness you've felt isn't chaos, it's God calling you higher. You've always known you were meant for more, that this world wasn't your final home. The tests you've passed have prepared you to leave behind what's temporary and embrace what's eternal. This new reality is where your soul finds its place, where your gifts change lives, where your life becomes a living testimony to God's faithfulness. You're not crazy, you're called. Consider Ezekiel, who spoke to dry bones and saw them live. The world saw death, but Ezekiel saw God's power. His faith opened a reality where the impossible became truth, where a valley of bones became an army. You're standing in your own valley, where the world sees endings, but God sees beginnings. This new world is where your words bring life, where your faith raises what was dead, where your life reflects God's glory. You're not imagining the strength rising within you, that courage, that clarity, that unshakable faith. It's God equipping you for a reality where you thrive, not just survive. You've passed the tests that showed you His power, His love, His plan. Now, you're stepping into a world where that power flows through you, where His love surrounds you, where His plan becomes your reality. You're not going crazy, you're stepping into your destiny. The old reality tried to define you by its limits, but the new world sees you through God's possibilities. You've felt the shift, the way fear loses its grip, the way hope takes root, the way purpose grows stronger. That's not madness, it's awakening. You're entering a reality where your faith isn't just a belief, it's a force, where your life isn't just a story, it's a testimony. You're not crazy, you're chosen for a life beyond this world. You've felt the world around you shifting, haven't you? The way things you once clung to no longer hold the same weight, the way your heart pulls towards something greater. That's not confusion, it's God realigning your soul with a reality where His purpose for you takes center stage. You're not going crazy, you're being called to a new world. A place where your faith becomes your foundation, where your life reflects the divine plan written for you before time began. Think of Jeremiah, a prophet chosen before he was born, yet mocked for speaking God's truth. The world saw a man overwhelmed, but God saw a voice that would shape nations. His tears, his doubts, his faithfulness. They opened a reality where his words carried eternal weight. You're walking in Jeremiah's footsteps, where the world's rejection only sharpens your purpose. This new world is where your voice echoes with divine authority, where your faith speaks louder than any doubt. The old reality taught you to measure yourself by what you could see: success, status, approval. But the new world measures you by what God sees. A chosen one, radiant with His light, unstoppable in His plan. You've passed tests of perseverance, of trust, of surrender. Not to earn your place, but to embrace it. Now, you're stepping into a reality where your worth is unshakable, where your purpose shines without apology, where your life becomes a testament to His glory. You've noticed the way your perspective is changing, haven't you? The way challenges that once paralyzed you now feel like invitations to trust deeper. That's not madness, it's divine vision. You're not losing your way. You're seeing the path God has laid out. This new world is where obstacles become opportunities, where your faith turns trials into triumphs, where you live as the chosen one you were created to be, unhindered by the limits of this world. Consider Sarah, who laughed at the promise of a child in her old age. The world saw impossibility, but God saw a miracle. Her faith, though tested by years of waiting, opened a reality where her laughter turned to joy. where her son became a nation. You're standing in your own Sarah moment, where what seems impossible is becoming your reality. This new world is where your faith turns laughter into legacy, where God's promises prove stronger than any doubt. You're not imagining the peace that's settling in your soul, that calm, that clarity, that quiet strength. It's God preparing you for a reality where His presence is your constant. You've passed the tests that taught you to lean on Him, to trust His voice, to follow His lead. Now, you're entering a world where His presence surrounds you, where His voice guides you, where His plan unfolds through you. You're not crazy, you're chosen. The old reality tried to bind you with fear, with doubt, with the weight of others' expectations. But the new world sets you free to live by faith, by truth, by God's design. You've felt the chains breaking, the way worry loses its grip, the way hope rises stronger. That's not delusion, it's liberation. You're stepping into a reality where fear has no power, where truth is your anchor, where your life reflects the freedom of being God's chosen one. Think of Joshua, who faced Jericho's walls with nothing but a promise. The world saw an impossible fortress, but Joshua saw God's victory, His faith, His obedience, His trust. They opened a reality where walls fell without a fight. You're standing before your own Jericho, where the world sees barriers, but God sees breakthroughs. This new world is where your faith brings down walls, where your obedience shifts history, where your life becomes a miracle. You've felt the spark of something new growing within you, haven't you? That fire, that vision, that unshakable certainty. It's not madness. It's God igniting your purpose. You're not losing your mind, you're finding your calling. This new reality is where that fire burns brightly, where your vision becomes reality, where your certainty shapes the world around you. You're stepping into a place where your life isn't just lived, it's transformative. The tests you've passed weren't meant to stop you, they were meant to strengthen you. Every moment you chose faith over fear, love over hate, hope over despair, you were forging a path to this new world. The old reality couldn't contain your spirit. It tried to dim your light, silence your voice. But this new world amplifies them both, letting your spirit soar, your voice resound, your light change everything. You're not crazy, you're called. Look at Mary Magdalene, who the world saw as broken, yet Jesus saw as whole. Her faith, her devotion, her love, they opened a reality where she became a witness to the resurrection. You're in your own Magdalene moment, where the world's labels fall away and God's truth defines you. This new world is where your brokenness becomes beauty, where your devotion becomes destiny, where your life testifies to His power. You're not imagining the way your heart feels lighter, your mind clearer, your spirit stronger. That's God aligning you with a reality where His promises are your truth. You've passed the tests that showed you His faithfulness, His strength, His love. Now, you're stepping into a world where that faithfulness surrounds you, that strength upholds you, that love guides you. You're not going crazy, you're stepping into your purpose. The old reality told you to settle, to accept less, to live within its limits. But the new world calls you to soar, to claim more, to live beyond boundaries. You've felt the pull towards something greater, the whisper of a life where your dreams align with God's plan. That's not delusion, it's divine direction. You're entering a reality where your dreams don't just survive, they thrive, where your life isn't just a story, it's a legacy. Think of Elisha, who saw chariots of fire when others saw only fear. The world thought him foolish, but God showed him a reality where his power was undeniable. You're standing in your own Elisha moment, where your eyes see what others miss, where your faith reveals God's protection. This new world is where your vision becomes reality, where His power flows through you, where your life becomes a beacon of His truth. You've passed the tests, not because you're perfect, but because you're persistent. Every time you trusted, prayed, believed, you were building a bridge to this new reality. The world you're leaving couldn't hold your spirit. The world you're entering is made for it. You're not losing your mind, you're gaining your destiny. Stepping into a life where God's promises are your foundation, where your faith shapes your future. The restlessness you've felt isn't chaos, it's God stirring your soul. You've always known you were meant for more, that this world wasn't your final home. The tests you've passed have prepared you to leave behind what's temporary and embrace what's eternal. This new reality is where your soul finds its place, where your gifts change lives, where your life becomes a testament to God's faithfulness. You're not crazy, you're called. Consider Nathanael, who doubted until he met Jesus face to face. The world saw a skeptic, but Jesus saw a man of truth. His encounter opened a reality where he saw angels ascending and descending, where his doubt became faith. You're in your own Nathanael moment, where your doubts are turning to certainty, where your faith opens new visions. This new world is where your encounters with God reshape your reality, where your faith becomes your sight. You're not imagining the strength rising within you, that courage, that clarity, that unshakable faith. It's God equipping you for a reality where you thrive. You've passed the tests that taught you to stand firm, to hold fast, to trust deeply. Now, you're stepping into a world where that strength becomes your foundation, where His love surrounds you, where His plan unfolds through you. You're not going crazy, you're stepping into your destiny. The old reality tried to define you by its failures, your mistakes, your setbacks, your pain. But the new world sees you through God's victory. You're not crazy for believing you're more than your past, you're chosen for embracing it. Every scar you carry is a story of survival. Every tear a testament to faith. This new reality is where those stories become your strength, where your life shines as a reflection of God's redemption. Think of Timothy, young and uncertain, yet chosen to lead. The world saw inexperience, but Paul saw a fire kindled by God. His faith opened a reality where his youth became his strength, where his leadership changed lives. You're in your own Timothy moment, where your weaknesses are transformed, where your faith becomes your power. This new world is where your youth, whether in years or spirit, ignites change, where your life reflects God's purpose. You've felt the shift, haven't you? The way fear loses its grip, the way hope takes root, the way purpose grows stronger. That's not madness, it's awakening. You're entering a reality where your faith isn't just a belief, it's a force. Where your life isn't just a story, it's a testimony. You're not crazy. You're chosen for a life beyond this world. A life where your presence shifts the atmosphere, where your faith moves mountains. The tests you've passed weren't random, they were divine assignments, shaping you for this new reality. Every moment you chose to trust, to forgive, to keep going, was God preparing you for a world where His promises are your truth. You're not losing your mind, you're finding your place. Stepping into a reality where your gifts don't just exist, they transform. Where your life becomes a living proof of His faithfulness. Look at Cornelius, a Gentile who sought God when the world said he didn't belong. His prayers, his faith, his heart, they opened a reality where God's Spirit fell on those once excluded. You're standing in your own Cornelius moment, where you're seeking, you're believing, you're trusting, are opening doors the world can't close. This new world is where your faith includes others, where your life becomes a bridge to God's grace. You're not imagining the peace growing within you, that calm, that certainty, that quiet strength. It's God aligning your spirit with a reality where His presence is your constant. You've passed the tests that taught you to lean on Him, to trust His voice, to follow His lead. Now, you're stepping into a world where His presence surrounds you, where His voice guides you, where His plan unfolds through you. You're not crazy, you're chosen. You've sensed the world around you changing, haven't you? The way old fears no longer hold you, the way your heart beats with a new rhythm of purpose. That's not chaos, it's God recalibrating your soul for a reality where His plan for you shines without shadow. You're not going crazy, you're being drawn into a new world. A place where your faith becomes your compass, where your life radiates the divine destiny etched in your spirit from the beginning. Think of Isaiah, a man whose lips were touched by fire to speak God's truth. The world saw a prophet burdened by visions, but God saw a voice to awaken nations. His willingness to say, "Here I am," opened a reality where His words shaped history. You're standing in your own Isaiah moment, where your voice, your faith, your surrender are unlocking a world where your words carry divine weight, where your life echoes God's call. The old reality tried to cage you in its doubts, fear of failure, worry about tomorrow, pressure to conform. But the new world frees you to live in God's certainty. You've passed tests of endurance, of trust, of courage, not to prove your strength, but to reveal His. Now, you're stepping into a reality where doubt has no power, where your faith shapes your future, where your life becomes a living reflection of God's unshakable promise. You've noticed the way your spirit feels lighter, haven't you? The way burdens you carried for years seem to dissolve. That's not imagination, it's transformation. You're not losing your grip, you're gaining God's vision. This new world is where your burdens become blessings, where your faith turns pain into purpose, where you walk as the chosen one, unshaken by the storms of the past. Consider Rebecca, who left her home on faith alone, trusting a promise she couldn't see. The world saw risk, but God saw destiny. Her courage opened a reality where she became the mother of a nation. You're in your own Rebecca moment, where your faith in God's promise is leading you to a world where your steps shape legacies, where your trust births miracles, where your life reflects His plan. You're not imagining the clarity growing in your mind, that sharpness, that focus, that unshakable knowing. It's God aligning you with a reality where His truth is your guide. You've passed the tests that taught you to discern His voice, to follow His path, to trust His timing. Now, you're entering a world where His truth lights your way, where His path leads to freedom, where His timing unfolds your purpose. The old reality told you to fight for control, to cling to what's safe, to fear the unknown. But the new world invites you to release control, to embrace faith, to welcome the divine. You've felt the shift, the way worry fades, the way trust rises, the way hope anchors you. That's not madness, it's alignment. You're stepping into a reality where faith is your strength, where God's plan is your safety, where your life shines with His glory. Think of Caleb, who saw a land of promise when others saw giants. The world called him foolish, but God called him faithful. His courage opened a reality where he claimed what others feared. You're standing in your own Caleb moment, where your faith sees beyond the giants, where your courage claims God's promises. This new world is where your vision overcomes obstacles, where your faith conquers fear, where your life becomes a testimony. You've felt the fire in your soul, haven't you? That passion, that drive, that unquenchable desire for more. That's not restlessness, it's God awakening your purpose. You're not going crazy, you're coming alive. This new reality is where that fire fuels your destiny, where your passion ignites change, where your life radiates the divine calling you were born to fulfill. The tests you've passed weren't meant to break you, they were meant to build you. Every moment you chose hope, every time you trusted God, every step you took in faith, they were shaping you for this new world. The old reality couldn't contain your spirit. It tried to silence your dreams. But this new world amplifies them, letting your dreams soar, your spirit shine, your life transform everything around you. Look at Anna, the prophetess who waited decades for the Messiah. The world saw an old woman, but God saw a heart of faith. Her patience opened a reality where she beheld salvation itself. You're in your own Anna moment, where you're waiting, you're praying, you're believing, are leading you to a world where your faith sees God's promises fulfilled, where your patience births miracles. You're not imagining the strength rising within you, that resilience, that courage, that unshakable trust. It's God equipping you for a reality where His power flows through you. You've passed the tests that taught you to stand firm, to hold on, to believe deeply. Now, you're stepping into a world where His power is your foundation, where His courage drives you, where His plan unfolds in every step you take. The old reality tried to define you by its rules, what you lack, what you've lost, what others think, but the new world sees you through God's truth. Chosen, whole, destined for greatness. You've felt the chains breaking, the way fear loses its hold, the way faith takes root. That's not delusion, it's liberation. You're entering a reality where truth is your anchor, where faith is your guide, where your life reflects God's glory. Think of Philip, who followed the Spirit to a desert road with no questions. The world saw a strange path, but God saw a divine appointment. His obedience opened a reality where one encounter changed a nation. You're in your own Philip moment, where your trust in God's leading takes you to unexpected places, where your obedience opens new doors, where your life becomes a vessel for His purpose. You've felt the shift in your heart, haven't you? The way love grows stronger, the way peace settles deeper, the way purpose feels clearer. That's not madness, it's God preparing you for a reality where His love is your strength. You've passed the tests that taught you to forgive, to persevere, to trust. Now, you're stepping into a world where His love surrounds you, where His peace guides you, where His purpose shines through you. The old reality told you to strive, to prove yourself, to fear failure, but the new world calls you to rest, to trust, to live in God's victory. You've passed the tests that showed you His provision, His faithfulness, His power. Now, you're entering a reality where provision is your inheritance, faithfulness is your foundation, power is your birthright. You're not crazy. You're chosen for a life beyond this world. Consider Lydia, whose heart God opened to receive His truth. The world saw a businesswoman, but God saw a disciple. Her faith opened a reality where her home became a hub for the gospel. You're in your own Lydia moment, where your heart is opening to new truths, where your faith is building new foundations. This new world is where your openness changes lives, where your faith creates spaces for God's work. You're not imagining the joy rising within you. That spark, that lightness, that unshakable hope. It's God aligning your spirit with a reality where His joy is your strength. You've passed the tests that taught you to hold on, to believe, to love. Now, you're stepping into a world where His joy fills you, where His hope guides you, where His love shapes your every moment. You're not going crazy, you're stepping into your destiny. The old reality tried to keep you bound by its limits, fear, doubt, comparison. But the new world sets you free to live in God's abundance. You've felt the shift, the way your thoughts align with hope, your heart with purpose, your spirit with God. That's not delusion, it's divine alignment. You're entering a reality where abundance isn't just material, it's spiritual, emotional, eternal, where your life becomes a testament to his faithfulness. Think of Bartholomew, who saw Jesus under the fig tree before they met. The world saw coincidence, but Bartholomew saw divine insight. His faith opened a reality where he walked with the Son of God. You're in your own Bartholomew moment, where your glimpses of God's presence are no accident. This new world is where your insight becomes vision, where your faith becomes reality, where your life reflects his glory. You've passed the tests, not because you're flawless, but because you're faithful. Every time you trusted, prayed, believed, you were building a bridge to this new reality. The world you're leaving couldn't hold your spirit. The world you're entering is made for it. You're not losing your mind, you're finding your place, stepping into a life where God's promises are your truth, where your faith shapes your future. The restlessness you've felt isn't chaos, it's God stirring your soul. You've always known you were meant for more, that this world wasn't your final home. The tests you've passed have prepared you to leave behind what's temporary and embrace what's eternal. This new reality is where your soul finds its place, where your gifts change lives, where your life becomes a beacon of God's grace. You're not crazy, you're called. Look at Dorcas, whose kindness brought life to those around her. The world saw a seamstress, but God saw a servant whose love outlived her. Her faith opened a reality where her generosity became eternal. You're in your own Dorcas moment, where your kindness, your faith, your love are creating ripples that last forever. This new world is where your actions change lives, where your faith builds legacies. You're not imagining the courage growing within you. That boldness, that clarity, that unshakable trust. It's God equipping you for a reality where his power flows through you. You've passed the tests that taught you to stand firm, to hold fast, to trust deeply. Now, you're stepping into a world where his power is your foundation, where his courage drives you, where his plan unfolds in every step you take. You're not crazy, you're chosen. You've felt the world start to feel different, haven't you? The way the air carries a new energy, the way your soul stirs with a quiet certainty. That's not your mind playing tricks. It's God unveiling a reality where his purpose for you burns brightly. You're not going crazy. You're crossing a threshold into a new world, a place where your faith becomes your strength, where your life aligns with the divine calling written in your heart from the start. Think of Ezekiel's vision of the river flowing from the temple, bringing life to everything it touched. The world saw a dry land, but Ezekiel saw God's abundance. His faith opened a reality where barren places bloomed. You're standing in your own Ezekiel moment, where your vision sees beyond the desert, where your faith brings life to what seemed dead. This new world is where your presence brings healing, where your trust creates abundance, where your life flows with God's power. The old reality tried to anchor you to its fears, scarcity, rejection, uncertainty. But the new world lifts you into God's promises. You've passed tests of patience, of courage, of belief, not to earn his favor, but to embrace it. Now, you're stepping into a reality where scarcity becomes surplus, rejection becomes acceptance, uncertainty becomes divine certainty. Your life is becoming a testament to his unending faithfulness. You've noticed the way your heart feels steadier, haven't you? The way chaos no longer shakes you. The way peace holds you firm. That's not imagination, it's God grounding you in a reality where his presence is your foundation. You're not losing your way, you're finding your place. This new world is where trials become testimonies, where your faith turns fear into freedom, where you walk as the chosen one, radiant with his truth. Consider Jethro, who advised Moses in the wilderness. The world saw a priest from a distant land, but God saw a guide for his people. His wisdom opened a reality where order emerged from chaos. You're in your own Jethro moment, where your insight, your faith, your guidance are shaping a new path. This new world is where your wisdom brings clarity, where your faith builds order, where your life reflects God's purpose. You're not imagining the hope rising within you, that spark, that vision, that unshakable trust. It's God preparing you for a reality where his hope is your anchor. You've passed the tests that taught you to hold on, to believe, to persevere. Now, you're entering a world where his hope sustains you, where his vision guides you, where his purpose shines through every step you take. You're not crazy, you're chosen. The old reality told you to hide your light, to doubt your worth, to fear the future. But the new world calls you to shine, to embrace your value, to trust God's plan. You've felt the shift, the way doubt fades, the way confidence grows, the way faith becomes your strength. That's not delusion, it's divine awakening. You're stepping into a reality where your light changes lives, where your worth is undeniable, where your faith shapes eternity. Think of Hagar, who met God in the desert when all seemed lost. The world saw a fugitive, but God saw a mother of nations. Her faith opened a reality where a well appeared in the wilderness. You're in your own Hagar moment, where your faith finds provision in barren places, where your trust opens wells of hope. This new world is where your faith brings life, where your trust creates miracles, where your life reflects God's care. You've felt the strength in your spirit, haven't you? The way you stand taller, the way fear no longer sways you. That's not madness, it's God fortifying you for a reality where his power is your backbone. You've passed the tests that taught you to stand firm, to trust deeply, to love boldly. Now, you're stepping into a world where his power flows through you, where his strength upholds you, where his love guides your every move. The old reality tried to measure you by its standards, wealth, status, approval. But the new world measures you by God's grace. You've passed the tests that showed you his provision, his love, his plan. Now, you're entering a reality where grace is your currency, where love is your foundation, where his plan becomes your reality. You're not crazy, you're chosen for a life that transcends this world. Look at Amos, a farmer called to prophesy. The world saw a nobody, but God saw a voice for truth. His obedience opened a reality where his words shook kingdoms. You're in your own Amos moment, where your ordinary life is becoming extraordinary, where your faith speaks louder than status. This new world is where your voice carries power, where your faith shifts nations, where your life becomes a beacon of God's truth. You're not imagining the peace settling in your soul, that calm, that clarity, that unshakable faith. It's God aligning you with a reality where his peace is your strength. You've passed the tests that taught you to trust his timing, to lean on his wisdom, to follow his lead. Now, you're stepping into a world where his peace surrounds you, where his wisdom guides you, where his lead shapes your destiny. The old reality told you to strive, to prove, to fear, but the new world invites you to rest, to trust, to live in God's victory. You've felt the weight lifting, the way worry dissolves, the way faith rises. That's not madness, it's liberation. You're entering a reality where rest is your strength, where trust is your guide, where victory is your inheritance. You're not crazy. You're stepping into your calling. Think of Zephaniah, who spoke of God's restoration amid ruin. The world saw despair, but Zephaniah saw hope. His faith opened a reality where God's love rebuilt what was broken. You're in your own Zephaniah moment, where your faith sees restoration in ruins, where your hope rebuilds what was lost. This new world is where your faith restores, where your hope rebuilds, where your life reflects God's redemption. You've felt the fire growing within you, haven't you? That passion, that purpose, that unquenchable drive. That's not restlessness, it's God igniting your destiny. You're not losing your mind, you're finding your mission. This new reality is where that fire fuels your purpose, where your passion changes lives, where your life radiates the divine calling you were born to fulfill. The old reality tried to dim your dreams, to silence your voice, to limit your faith. But the new world amplifies them all. You've passed the tests that taught you to dream boldly, to speak truth, to trust deeply. Now, you're stepping into a reality where dreams become reality, where your voice moves mountains, where your faith shapes the future. You're not crazy, you're chosen. Consider Haggai, who called a people to rebuild God's house. The world saw a stalled dream, but Haggai saw God's glory. His faith opened a reality where a remnant restored a nation's purpose. You're in your own Haggai moment, where your faith rebuilds what was broken, where your call restores God's plan. This new world is where your efforts bear fruit, where your faith revives purpose, where your life shines with His glory. You're not imagining the clarity in your heart, that focus, that certainty, that unshakable trust. It's God preparing you for a reality where His truth is your guide. You've passed the tests that taught you to see clearly, to stand firm, to love deeply. Now, you're stepping into a world where His truth lights your path, where His strength upholds you, where His love defines your every step. The old reality told you to settle, to accept less, to fear the unknown. But the new world calls you to rise, to claim more, to embrace God's plan. You've felt the shift, the way fear fades, the way hope grows, the way purpose anchors you. That's not delusion, it's divine direction. You're entering a reality where your faith overcomes, where your hope transforms, where your life becomes a testament to His faithfulness. Think of Obadiah, who spoke against pride in a world blind to its fall. The world saw power, but Obadiah saw God's justice. His faith opened a reality where truth prevailed over arrogance. You're in your own Obadiah moment, where your faith sees beyond pride, where your trust upholds justice. This new world is where your faith brings truth, where your trust restores balance, where your life reflects God's righteousness. You've passed the tests, not because you're perfect, but because you're persistent. Every time you trusted, prayed, believed, you were building a bridge to this new reality. The world you're leaving couldn't contain your spirit. The world you're entering is made for it. You're not losing your mind, you're finding your place, stepping into a life where God's promises are your truth, where your faith shapes your future. The restlessness you've felt isn't chaos, it's God stirring your soul. You've always known you were meant for more, that this world wasn't your final home. The tests you've passed have prepared you to leave behind what's temporary and embrace what's eternal. This new reality is where your soul finds its place, where your gifts change lives, where your life becomes a beacon of God's grace. You're not crazy, you're called. Look at Joel, who saw God's Spirit poured out on all people. The world saw division, but Joel saw unity. His faith opened a reality where God's presence transformed hearts. You're in your own Joel moment, where your faith sees unity in division, where your trust brings God's Spirit. This new world is where your presence unites, where your faith transforms, where your life reflects God's love. You're not imagining the courage rising within you, that boldness, that clarity, that unshakable faith. It's God equipping you for a reality where His power flows through you. You've passed the tests that taught you to stand firm, to hold fast, to trust deeply. Now, you're stepping into a world where His power is your foundation, where His courage drives you, where His plan unfolds in every step you take. You're not crazy, you're chosen. You've felt a stirring in your spirit, haven't you? The way your soul seems to hum with a new frequency, the way your heart senses a horizon beyond this world. That's not your imagination running wild. It's God tuning you to a reality where His purpose for you pulses with life. You're not going crazy. You're stepping into a new world, a place where your faith becomes your rhythm, where your life dances to the divine melody written for you before creation. Think of Habakkuk, who stood on a watchtower, waiting for God's answer in a world of chaos. The world saw despair, but Habakkuk saw hope. His faith opened a reality where God's promises outshone the darkness. You're in your own Habakkuk moment, where you're waiting, you're watching, you're trusting, are leading you to a world where hope triumphs, where your faith sees God's hand in every storm, where your life sings His praise. The old reality tried to trap you in its shadows, fear of lack, weight of rejection, sting of doubt. But the new world lifts you into God's light. You've passed tests of resilience, of belief, of surrender, not to prove your worth, but to embrace His. Now, you're stepping into a reality where shadows fade, where rejection becomes redirection, where doubt bows to divine certainty. Your life is becoming a canvas for His glory. You've noticed the way your thoughts feel sharper, haven't you? The way confusion gives way to clarity, the way fear no longer clouds your mind. That's not a trick of the mind, it's God illuminating a reality where His truth is your lens. You're not losing focus, you're gaining vision. This new world is where clarity guides your steps, where faith sharpens your sight, where you walk as the chosen one, radiant with His purpose. Consider Miriam, who danced in victory after crossing the Red Sea. The world saw a woman overshadowed, but God saw a prophetess of joy. Her faith opened a reality where freedom was celebrated with song. You're in your own Miriam moment, where your faith turns deliverance into dance, where your trust transforms trials into triumph. This new world is where your joy resounds, where your faith celebrates, where your life reflects His freedom. You're not imagining the strength building within you. That resilience, that boldness, that unshakable trust. It's God forging you for a reality where His power is your core. You've passed the tests that taught you to stand tall, to trust deeply, to love fiercely. Now, you're stepping into a world where His power anchors you, where His boldness drives you, where His love shapes every moment you live. The old reality told you to shrink back, to question your place, to fear the unknown. But the new world calls you to step forward, to claim your purpose, to embrace God's plan. You've felt the shift, the way hesitation fades, the way confidence rises, the way faith becomes your strength. That's not madness, it's divine momentum. You're entering a reality where your steps are bold, where your purpose is clear, where your life shines with His truth. Think of Zechariah, who doubted yet saw God's promise fulfilled. The world saw silence, but God saw a father of hope. His faith, though tested, opened a reality where His Son prepared the way for salvation. You're in your own Zechariah moment, where your doubts are turning to faith, where your silence becomes a shout of praise. This new world is where your faith fulfills promises, where your trust births hope, where your life reflects God's plan. You've felt the peace anchoring your soul, haven't you? The way storms no longer shake you, the way calm holds you steady. That's not a fleeting feeling. It's God rooting you in a reality where His peace is your foundation. You're not losing your way, you're finding your home. This new world is where peace steadies your heart, where faith guides your path, where you live as the chosen one, unshaken by the chaos of the past. The old reality tried to define you by its losses, broken dreams, faded hopes, past mistakes. But the new world sees you through God's restoration. You've passed the tests that taught you to hold on, to believe, to trust. Now, you're stepping into a reality where losses become gains, where hopes are renewed, where mistakes become stepping stones. Your life is becoming a testimony to His redeeming power. Look at Hosea, who loved through betrayal, reflecting God's heart. The world saw foolishness, but God saw faithfulness. His obedience opened a reality where love restored what was lost. You're in your own Hosea moment, where your love, your faith, your trust are rebuilding what was broken. This new world is where your love restores, where your faith redeems, where your life reflects God's mercy. You're not imagining the light growing within you, that glow, that warmth, that unshakable hope. It's God kindling your spirit for a reality where His light is your guide. You've passed the tests that taught you to shine, to trust, to persevere. Now, you're stepping into a world where His light radiates through you, where His hope lifts you, where His purpose shapes your every step. You're not crazy, you're chosen. The old reality told you to fight for scraps, to chase approval, to fear failure. But the new world invites you to rest in abundance, to walk in purpose, to live in victory. You've felt the weight lifting, the way worry dissolves, the way faith rises. That's not delusion, it's divine freedom. You're entering a reality where abundance is your inheritance, where purpose is your path, where victory is your birthright. Think of Malachi, who spoke of God's refining fire. The world saw judgment, but Malachi saw purification. His faith opened a reality where hearts were cleansed for God's glory. You're in your own Malachi moment, where your faith refines you, where your trust purifies your purpose. This new world is where your heart is made new, where your faith shines pure, where your life reflects God's holiness. You've felt the courage stirring in your heart, haven't you? The way fear no longer holds you back, the way boldness takes root. That's not recklessness, it's God equipping you for a reality where His courage is your strength. You've passed the tests that taught you to stand firm, to trust boldly, to love deeply. Now, you're stepping into a world where His courage drives you, where His strength upholds you, where His love guides your every move. The old reality tried to bind you to its limits, doubt, fear, comparison, but the new world sets you free to live in God's possibilities. You've felt the chains breaking, the way doubt fades, the way faith grows, the way purpose anchors you. That's not madness, it's divine liberation. You're entering a reality where possibilities are endless, where faith is your guide, where your life becomes a beacon of God's grace. Look at Nahum, who proclaimed God's justice in a world of oppression. The world saw vengeance, but Nahum saw restoration. His faith opened a reality where God's truth prevailed. You're in your own Nahum moment, where your faith upholds justice, where your trust restores balance. This new world is where your presence brings truth, where your faith heals wounds, where your life reflects God's righteousness. You're not imagining the clarity in your spirit, that focus, that certainty, that unshakable trust. It's God aligning you with a reality where His truth is your lens, You've passed the tests that taught you to see clearly, to stand strong, to love fiercely. Now, you're stepping into a world where His truth lights your path, where His strength anchors you, where His love shapes your destiny. The old reality told you to settle, to accept less, to fear the future. But the new world calls you to rise, to claim more, to trust God's plan. You've felt the shift, the way fear loses its grip, the way hope takes root, the way purpose grows stronger. That's not delusion, it's divine direction. You're entering a reality where your faith overcomes, where your hope transforms, where your life shines with His glory. Think of Micah, who spoke of God's mercy in a world of judgment. The world saw condemnation, but Micah saw grace. His faith opened a reality where love triumphed over law. You're in your own Micah moment, where your faith sees grace in judgment, where your trust brings mercy. This new world is where your love heals, where your faith restores, where your life reflects God's compassion. You've passed the tests, not because you're flawless, but because you're faithful. Every time you trusted, prayed, believed, you were building a bridge to this new reality. The world you're leaving couldn't contain your spirit. The world you're entering is made for it. You're not losing your mind, you're finding your place. Stepping into a life where God's promises are your truth, where your faith shapes your future. The restlessness you've felt isn't chaos, it's God stirring your soul. You've always known you were meant for more, that this world wasn't your final home. The tests you've passed have prepared you to leave behind what's temporary and embrace what's eternal. This new reality is where your soul finds its place, where your gifts change lives, where your life becomes a beacon of God's grace. You're not crazy, you're called. Look at Jonah's Nineveh, a city doomed yet saved by repentance. The world saw destruction, but Jonah saw redemption. His obedience opened a reality where mercy changed hearts. You're in your own Nineveh moment, where your faith brings redemption, where your trust transforms lives. This new world is where your presence saves, where your faith renews, where your life reflects God's mercy. You're not imagining the fire in your soul, that passion, that purpose, that unquenchable drive. It's God igniting your destiny. You're not losing your mind, you're finding your mission. This new reality is where that fire fuels your purpose, where your passion changes lives, where your life radiates the divine calling you were born to fulfill. You're not crazy, you're chosen.